Grace moved closer, her hand reaching out to touch Isabella's arm. I know you're angry, but we have to stick together. We can find a way out of this. Isabella laughed bitterly. Stick together? With you? I can barely stand to look at you. You ruined my life. Do you know what it's like to find out everything you believed was a lie? That I'm nothing but a bastard? I really can't believe Arya is the real one, the real child of her father. Isabella groaned in her thoughts. Tears streamed down Grace's face as she shook her head. I tried to protect you, Isabella. I made mistakes, but I never wanted this for you. Isabella laughed bitterly, the sound harsh in the small room. Protect me? You call this protection? Living like rats in a hole? I should have known better than to trust you. You brought all of this upon us, and now, on top of everything, I have to deal with this. Grace's eyes widened in shock. Deal with what? Isabella, what are you talking about? Isabella's anger turned to bitterness as she looked her mother in the eyes. I was pregnant, Mother. Did you know that? Pregnant with Julian's child? But of course that child isn't even his. It's Ryan's, that useless loser. I can't believe I was so stupid. Grace's face went pale. You were pregnant? Why didn't you tell me? Isabella, what did you do? Isabella sneered. What did I do? I lost the baby, if you must know. The stress, the illness, it was too much. But what difference does it make? Do you think I wanted to bring a child into this world? Into this mess? I can't go back to Ryan. I won't. He's a nobody. Grace's voice was filled with desperation. Isabella, you need to tell him. At least he can help you. You need a better place to live. We can't go on like this. Isabella shook her head, her expression hardening. I'm not telling him anything. I won't be pitied or saved by him. We are where we are because of you. Don't think for a second that I'll ever forgive you for this. Grace sat down heavily on the old, worn-out couch, her body racked with silent sobs. Isabella turned away, the hatred and resentment burning within her. She couldn't see a way out of this nightmare, and every moment in that wretched place felt like a lifetime of suffering. The thought of Arya and Alexander living happily, untouched by the chaos that had consumed her life, only deepened her despair. As the day dragged on, Isabella's mind churned with anger and regret. The pain of her illness was nothing compared to the torment of knowing that her life had been shattered by lies and betrayal. She vowed to herself that she would find a way to rise above it all, to reclaim her life and her dignity. But for now, all she could do was endure the misery and cling to the faint hope that one day things might be different. But would things ever be different? At night, the small, dilapidated room was quiet except for the faint sounds of the city outside. Grace watched her daughter with a heavy heart, noticing the dark circles under Isabella's eyes and the constant fidgeting. Isabella was sitting on the floor, biting her nails furiously, her eyes wild and unfocused. Grace took a deep breath and approached her. Isabella, Grace began softly, we need to talk. Isabella didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the dirty floor as she continued to bite her nails, the corners of her mouth twitching in a deranged manner. She seemed lost in her own world, oblivious to her mother's presence. Grace knelt down beside her, reaching out tentatively. I'm so sorry, Isabella. I need you to understand why things are the way they are. Before I met David, I was in a relationship with another man. He had very little, and our future seemed bleak. When David showed interest in me, I saw a way out. I became his mistress, leaving my previous relationship behind. Soon after, I found out I was pregnant. I lied to David, told him the baby was his, and he believed me because he was so taken with me. Isabella's nails were chewed down to the quick, but she kept gnawing at them, blood starting to seep from her fingertips. Her eyes were wide, but she didn't look at Grace. She muttered to herself under her breath, words Grace couldn't make out. Grace's heart ached seeing her daughter like this. She reached out to gently touch Isabella's arm, but Isabella flinched away, her muttering growing louder and more agitated. Isabella, please, Grace pleaded, tears welling up in her eyes. I never wanted you to suffer like this. I made terrible mistakes, and I'm so sorry. I know you're angry, but we need to find a way to move forward. Isabella finally looked up at her mother, her eyes filled with a disturbing mixture of anger and confusion. Grace was taken aback, her concern deepening. She realized that Isabella's mental health was deteriorating rapidly. "Isabella, why did you get rid of the pregnancy? That could have been our chance. You could have gone to Ryan and told him the child was his. What are we going to do now?" Isabella's face twisted into a grotesque smile, her eyes wide and unblinking. She began to laugh, a hollow, chilling sound that echoed through the small room. "Chance? There is no chance, Mother. There never was. Ryan is a loser just like you, just like me. We're all losers in this game." Grace's eyes filled with tears as she watched her daughter, a broken shell of the vibrant young woman she once knew. She reached out again, but Isabella pushed her away, laughing hysterically. "Don't touch me," Isabella screamed. "This is all your fault. You ruined everything. If you hadn't lied, if you hadn't been so selfish, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be like this." Grace sank to the floor, her sobs mingling with Isabella's manic laughter. The reality of their situation hit her hard. They were trapped in a nightmare of their own making, and there seemed to be no way out. The mother and daughter were bound together by lies, betrayal, and a shared misery that seemed endless. The days after Julian's death had been a whirlwind of despair and anger for Isabella. Now, as she sat on the cold, hard floor of their tiny, rundown apartment, her mind was a storm of emotions. Grace had been insistent that they needed to confront Ryan and his family. The baby she had been carrying, now lost, had been their last chance at securing some semblance of stability. It was late in the evening when Grace finally managed to convince Isabella to accompany her to Ryan's former mansion. They had heard rumors that Ryan and his mother, Rebecca, had lost everything and were living in squalor, just like them. Grace saw this as a chance to at least demand some support or closure. As they arrived at the mansion, its once grand facade now looked neglected and weather-worn. The gates were unlocked, swinging open with a creak that echoed their own sense of desolation. They walked up to the door and knocked, but there was no answer. A neighbor, an elderly woman watering her sparse garden, approached them. "You're looking for the old tenants?" she asked, her voice tinged with pity. "They're not here anymore. Lost the house a month ago. They're in a lot of debt trying to pay them back. You can find them down by the old industrial area in a shelter there." Grace thanked the woman and turned to Isabella, who looked more despondent than ever. "We have to go find them," Grace urged. "We need to settle this." Reluctantly, Isabella followed her mother to the shelter. As Grace and Isabella approached the shelter, the stench of mildew and unwashed bodies hit them like a wave. The dim lighting barely illuminated the run-down interior, casting long shadows across the walls. Grace felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she saw Rebecca, her once elegant clothes now tattered rags, scrubbing the floors. The sight of her former nemesis, reduced to this, should have given her satisfaction, but instead, it filled her with a mix of dread and resignation. Rebecca looked up, her eyes narrowing as she recognized them. Her face contorted with rage, and she threw the scrub brush aside, storming towards Isabella. Without a word, she struck Isabella across the face, sending her reeling backwards. "You! How dare you show your face here after what you did to my daughter, Eva?" Rebecca spat, her voice shaking with fury. "Look at what you've done to us." Isabella, already frail and sick, barely managed to steady herself. Her eyes widened with a wild, almost deranged light, and she let out a bitter laugh. "And what about what you did to me, Rebecca? You think you're the only one suffering? Look at me." Rebecca scoffed, her contempt palpable. "Oh, I am looking at you, Isabella. And I can't say I'm surprised. You look exactly like you deserve, covered in rashes, pathetic and unrecognizable. What a fall from grace." Grace stepped forward, her voice a forced calm. "Rebecca, we didn't come here to fight. We need help. We have nothing left." Rebecca's eyes flicked to Grace, then back to Isabella, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "Help? You must be joking. You used to look down on us, remember? Now look at you. At least Ryan and I aren't the only ones suffering." The words hit Isabella like a physical blow. Her disfigured face, once a source of pride and beauty, now a mark of her downfall, was being mocked. She felt a burning humiliation that made her skin crawl. Months ago, she had worn the finest clothes, sneered at Ryan's family, and reveled in their misery. Now she could barely stand the sight of herself. Rebecca, seeing the effect her words had, pressed on. "So what are you doing here? Come to gloat at our misery, or maybe beg for scraps?" Isabella's voice was barely a whisper, strained and broken. I was pregnant. The baby was Ryan's. But it's gone now." Rebecca's eyes widened with a mixture of shock and disdain. "Pregnant? And you didn't think to tell us? Not that it matters now. Your lies and deceit have ruined everything." Grace tried to interject. "Rebecca, please, we need to make things right. We have to move forward." Rebecca laughed bitterly. "Move forward? There's no moving forward from this. We're all stuck in this hell, thanks to you and your manipulations." As the heated exchange continued, Ryan entered the shelter. His clothes were worn and faded, a torn shirt and dirty jeans barely holding together. He looked exhausted, the weight of his failed job applications and the stigma of his past mistakes hanging heavily on him. He had just come back from his job as a pizza delivery guy, a position far below what his education and skills deserved, but all he could get thanks to Alexander's influence. Despite his qualifications and the education he had received thanks to Arya, Alexander had ensured no business or company in the city would hire him. At first, he didn't recognize Isabella. The rashes and thin, worn-out look had transformed her into someone almost unrecognizable. When he finally realized who she was, a surge of anger and contempt burst forth. "Isabella," he growled, his voice dripping with hatred. "What are you doing here?" Isabella looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and desperation. "Ryan, Ryan cut her off, his voice rising. "You ruined everything. You and your mother with your schemes and lies. Do you think we want anything to do with you now?" Grace tried to speak. "Ryan, we're all suffering. We need each other now." Ryan laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Need each other? You must be out of your mind. You think we'll just forget everything you did? That I'll just forgive and help you? You're delusional." Isabella, her voice trembling, said, I didn't know it would end like this. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was pregnant with you. I was carrying your child." Ryan glared at her, walking towards her with nothing but hate. "You really haven't changed after all that has happened to you? You really think I would pity you with that sorry-ass story of yours? I don't care if you are or was pregnant with me." Isabella, her eyes flashing with a moment of madness, shot back. "You don't care, Ryan? You should. That child was your chance at redemption, but now it's gone, just like every bit of humanity you ever had," Ryan scoffed. "You really are crazy. What gave you the guts to show your pathetic face in front of me? Wait, were you thinking of begging me to let you stay? You really have no shame. Remember what you said to me that night? Where is Julian now to save you?" Rebecca chuckled as she eyed them. "I really was stupid to have wanted my son to marry you. I regret everything. I regret being greedy and selfish. At least I'm not the only one paying for my crimes. You two seem to have gotten what you deserve." Rebecca's voice turned ice cold as she looked Isabella up and down. "I hope you suffer 10 times what we are suffering. You're going to rot, Isabella, for what you did to Ava." Isabella rolled her eyes, not feeling guilty about what happened to Ava. "What? Why are you blaming me for what happened to your daughter? She deserved everything that happened to her. And you two stopped behaving like saints. You were trying to marry me just for your own gain, too. To make my father give you a high position in our family's company. Now you're saying I'm the only wicked one. I didn't force Ava to poison Arya. She did it of her own free will, and she's paying for that now." The room fell silent, the weight of Isabella's words hanging in the air. Grace and Ryan stared at her, stunned by her brazenness, while Rebecca's face twisted with fury and regret. The raw, unfiltered truth of their mutual greed and betrayal laid bare the depths of their shared ruin. Ryan, feeling the impact of her words, shot back with venom. I regret ever liking you, Isabella. I regret everything I did to Arya because of you. But you know what? Arya has more humanity in her little finger than you'll ever have. And you, Isabella, you're nothing but a bastard. Not the real child of your father. No wonder he threw your mother out the moment he found out. How does it feel to be nothing? How does it feel to know Arya was the real child all along? Rebecca eyed them in disgust, her contempt palpable. Isabella's face crumpled, the weight of Ryan's words cutting deeper than any physical blow. Grace, consumed with shame, grabbed Isabella's arm. We should leave. Ryan, as they were turning to go, delivered one last blow. And by the way, on my way home, I heard the police are looking for you. I wonder what offense you've committed this time. Isabella's eyes widened in fear, but Grace quickly pulled her out of the shelter, leaving the room in a heavy, oppressive silence. The following day, the sun shone brightly, casting dappled patterns of light and shadow across the park as Jessica and Mason walked hand in hand. Mason's eyes sparkled with curiosity and excitement, sensing that this was no ordinary outing. Jessica had told him they were meeting a special friend, and he couldn't wait to find out who it was. Mom, who are we meeting? Mason asked, his voice filled with anticipation. Jessica smiled down at him, her heart pounding with a mix of nervousness and hope. You'll see, sweetheart. It's a surprise, she replied, squeezing his hand gently. As they approached the park's central fountain, Mason's eyes widened in recognition. Sitting on a bench nearby was Raphael, his expression a blend of anticipation and anxiety. When Raphael spotted them, he stood up, a soft smile spreading across his face. Mason, do you remember Raphael? Jessica asked, her voice trembling slightly. Mason nodded, his eyes lighting up. Yes, Mom. He's your old friend, right? He said, looking at Raphael with curiosity. Jessica took a deep breath, kneeling down at Mason's level. She cupped his small face in her hands, her eyes locking onto his. Mason, I have something very important to tell you, she began, her voice tender and loving. Raphael is not just an old friend. He's your father. Mason blinked, processing the information. My father? He repeated, looking between Jessica and Raphael. Raphael's eyes glistened with emotion as he stepped closer. Yes, Mason. I'm your father, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I've wanted to meet you for so long. Mason looked up at Jessica, seeking confirmation. She nodded, her eyes filled with tears. It's true, sweetheart. Raphael is your dad, she whispered. A wide range of emotions played across Mason's face. Confusion, surprise, and finally, joy. You're my dad, he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Raphael nodded, kneeling down at Mason's level. Yes, Mason, I'm your dad, he repeated, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you before. But I'm here now, and I want to be a part of your life, if you'll let me. Mason's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of joy. I've always wanted to know my dad, he said, his voice trembling. I'm so sorry you're just getting to know me, Raphael said. Jessica watched them, her heart full. She had been so afraid of this moment, worried about how Mason would react, but seeing the joy on his face and the love in Raphael's eyes made all the fear and uncertainty melt away. As Raphael held Mason close, he looked up at Jessica, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, he mouthed silently, his eyes conveying the depth of his appreciation. Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for coming back, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Raphael gently released Mason from their embrace and looked deeply into his eyes. Mason, I want you to know that I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. We'll take this one day at a time, and we'll make new memories together. Mason beamed, wiping his tears away with the back of his hand. I like that. I want us to be a family, you, Mommy, and me. Jessica's eyes widened in shock. Mason, there are still a lot of things we must explain to you. Jessica said, then swallowed a lump in her throat. She was careful in how she explained things to Mason since he was still just a child. Raphael, your father, has another child, quite older than you. Mason raised a brow. Does he have another family? Are we his second family? Is that why he hasn't been around? Jessica was taken aback by Mason's mature question. She realized he might have heard things from his classmates. No, Mason, she said gently. You are not a second family. Raphael, your father had a past, just like everyone does. And part of that past includes having another child. How did you know about a second family? Mason looked up innocently. From school. A friend in school always talks about how he and his mother were his father's second family. His father loved his first family more than them. Arya stood in the spacious nursery room, her baby bump prominently showing, a serene smile spreading across her face. The room was a harmonious blend of elegance and comfort, designed with both luxury and practicality in mind. As she looked around, her eyes sparkled with anticipation and joy. She was standing in the very space where her dreams of motherhood would soon become a reality. The nursery was a grand yet cozy room, its walls painted in soft, soothing hues of mint green and cream, colors that were carefully chosen to create a calming environment. Delicate hand-painted murals of whimsical animals and nature scenes adorned the walls, giving the room a gentle, playful feel. 3 pristine cribs, crafted from the finest white oak, stood in a row along one side of the room. Each crib was fitted with plush, hypoallergenic bedding and soft, hand-knitted blankets in neutral tones. Above each crib hung a beautiful mobile, one with tiny stars, another with clouds, and the third with delicate butterflies, all slowly turning in the gentle air. As Arya sorted through the baby clothes, she couldn't help but smile at the tiny, unisex outfits. The anticipation of that moment filled her with a thrill that made her heart flutter. She lifted a small, soft onesie to her nose, breathing in the clean, new fabric scent, and a wave of tenderness washed over her. Just a few more days, she murmured softly to herself. Just a few more days until I hold you in my arms. She placed the onesie back in the drawer and looked down at her round belly, her hands gently caressing it. The warmth of her touch seemed to radiate through her, connecting her to the tiny lives growing inside her. You 3 are my joy, she whispered, her voice filled with love and awe. I can't wait to meet you, to see your little faces and hold you close. The room was equipped with state-of-the-art technology, including discreetly placed CCTV cameras that allowed Alexander and Arya to monitor the nursery from their bedroom. This advanced system gave them peace of mind, knowing they could keep a close watch over their babies once they were born. In addition to the cribs, the nursery was furnished with a comfortable nursing chair upholstered in a soft, velvety fabric, perfect for late-night feedings and cuddles. A matching ottoman sat nearby, offering a place to rest weary feet. A changing table, stocked with all the essentials, stood ready for use, its drawers filled with neatly arranged diapers, wipes, and creams. The large antique armoire held more baby clothes, all meticulously organized by Arya in preparation for the arrival of her triplets. Plush toys and stuffed animals were scattered around the room, adding to the whimsical atmosphere. A beautiful hand-woven rug covered the polished hardwood floor, its soft texture inviting and warm. A large window allowed natural light to flood the room during the day, and at night, soft, dimmable lights cast a gentle glow, creating a serene and peaceful environment. Heavy, cream-colored drapes framed the window, ready to be drawn for nap time. The nursery was conveniently located adjacent to Arya and Alexander's bedroom, connected by a short hallway. This thoughtful design allowed them to be close to their children at all times, making it easy to respond quickly to their needs. The proximity also meant that the sounds of their babies would reach them easily, ensuring they never missed a moment. As Arya continued to sort through the clothes, her mind drifted to thoughts of the future. She imagined the first time she would cradle each baby, the soft weight of them in her arms, their tiny fingers curling around hers. The feeling of becoming a mother filled her with a profound sense of fulfillment and excitement. She smiled again, placing a small hat back in the drawer. "We are so ready for you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have everything we need, and we can't wait to welcome you into our lives." Arya's heart swelled with love and anticipation as she looked around the nursery once more. This room, filled with so much love and preparation, was ready to become the heart of their home, a place where countless memories would be made. She took a deep breath, savoring the moment, knowing that soon, very soon, her dream of holding her triplets would come true. Arya was still in the nursery room, arranging the tiny clothes, when a knock came at the door. She looked up, slightly puzzled. "Come in," she called out. The door opened to reveal Veronica, the elderly maid who had grown fond of Arya over the past few days. Veronica smiled politely. "There's a man outside requesting to see you," she said. "He says he is your father." Arya's expression shifted to a slight frown. "My father?" She scoffed softly, more to herself than to Veronica. Of course, she had expected this. Now that Isabella was revealed not to be his real daughter, he would come begging. "Tell him I'll be out soon," Arya instructed Veronica. Veronica nodded and left the room, closing the door quietly behind her. Arya took a deep breath, looking around the nursery one more time. She gently caressed her baby bump. "Just a few more days, little ones," she whispered before heading out. A few minutes later, Arya stepped out into the vast, well-lit courtyard of the mansion. Despite it being night, the grounds were bathed in light from strategically placed fixtures, CCTV cameras keeping a watchful eye, and security guards stationed at every corner. She saw David standing there, looking disheveled and worn, as if he hadn't slept well in days. "Arya, how are you doing?" "I hope you're well." "And Alexander, is he at home?" David asked, smiling awkwardly. "Drop the act and just tell me what you're doing here," Arya replied coldly. David's face fell, showing his sadness and regret. He hated himself for not loving Arya as he should have. He had been such a fool, choosing a bastard over his own child. Only now, after everything, did he see how wrong he had been. "I know you still hate me for everything I have done to you, but believe me, Arya, I came here with good intentions," David said. Arya scoffed. "I don't hate you. I just don't want to remember the past. Seeing your face makes me remember all the harm and mistreatment you've caused me. I am sincerely sorry, Arya. I should have known better. I shouldn't have neglected or mistreated you. I caused you a lot of harm as your father. I blamed you for your mother's death even though you were just a baby," David admitted, his voice trembling with guilt. "You're saying all of this now because you know Isabella isn't your real daughter. You're saying this now because all of this is happening to you." "You wouldn't have apologized if it was a year back," Arya said, her voice tinged with bitterness. David swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat. He blinked rapidly, then slowly went down on his knees. "Please forgive me, Arya. I am so sorry for being a bad father." "Please forgive me," he pleaded. At first, Arya was taken aback. Seeing David, her father, on his knees asking for forgiveness was a sight she never thought she would witness. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. This was the man who once despised her, now begging for her forgiveness. She wondered what if she hadn't married Alexander? What if Alexander wasn't wealthy? What if he hadn't found out Isabella wasn't his real child? Would her father still be there, asking for forgiveness? Veronica, standing behind Arya, looked at David in shock. She couldn't believe her eyes either. Arya took a deep breath. Despite everything that had happened, she wanted to live in peace. She was expecting her babies and didn't want to harbor resentment. She didn't want her children to grow up in an environment of unforgiveness. Seeing her father on his knees, she knew she had to set an example. He was her father, after all. Arya smiled softly. "I forgive you," she said. The look on David's face was one of immense relief. Tears welled up in his eyes as he whispered, "Thank you so much, my daughter. I forgive you, but that doesn't mean..." Arya began. David looked up, his expression full of hope and sadness. Thank you, Arya. I know I have no right to ask, but I hope someday we can rebuild our relationship. I want to be there for you and your children. Arya nodded slightly. We'll see, she said softly. It will take time, but we can start by moving forward. Just then, the gate in the distance opened, and Alexander's sleek, black Rolls-Royce Phantom drove into the large and wide compound. The car was a symbol of Alexander's wealth and status, gleaming under the lights as it rolled to a stop. Alexander stepped out of the car and walked towards them. His eyes softened as he saw Arya, a loving smile spreading across his face. He approached her, gently cupping her face in his hands. How's my beautiful wife and our precious babies? He asked, his voice full of tenderness. He bent down and placed a gentle kiss on her baby bump, then stood up and kissed her softly on the lips. I've missed you, he whispered, wrapping his arm around her waist protectively. Arya leaned into him, feeling the warmth and strength of his embrace. I've missed you too, she replied, her voice filled with love and contentment. Alexander looked at David, acknowledging his presence with a nod. Good evening, Mr. Johnson, he said politely, his tone neutral. David nodded back, still overwhelmed with emotion. Good evening, Alexander. Alexander's attention returned to Arya, his eyes filled with admiration and love. Let's go inside, he said softly, guiding her back towards the house. As they walked away, Veronica followed, casting one last look at David, who remained kneeling on the ground, a mix of relief and regret on his face. What is your father doing here and on his knees? Alexander asked Arya as they walked inside. He came to apologize for all he did to me and ask for forgiveness, Arya replied, her voice calm. And what did you tell him regarding that? Alexander asked. I forgave him, Arya said. She paused, looking thoughtful. I realized that holding on to that anger wasn't good for me, especially now that we're about to become parents. I want to set an example for our children, to teach them about forgiveness and moving forward. Alexander nodded. It's your choice, and I respect it. Arya smiled, grateful for his understanding. How was work today? She asked. It was good. I had a lot of meetings. There's a new project coming up, Alexander replied, a hint of excitement in his voice. That sounds interesting. What kind of project? Arya inquired, genuinely curious. It's a new luxury resort we're planning to develop. It's going to be a huge venture, and could be one of our most ambitious projects yet, Alexander explained, his eyes lighting up as he spoke about it. Arya smiled, feeling proud of him. That sounds amazing. I know you'll make it a success. Alexander leaned down and kissed her forehead. Thank you, love. Your support means everything to me. You support me a lot too, Arya replied. By the way, my mom is coming to visit tomorrow, Alexander told her. I really can't believe Ryan would say and do that to us. Anyway, we deserved it though. But why are we the only ones to get blamed? They wanted to use you for their own gain, Grace said, angry. Isabella frowned, her frustration evident. I'm totally sure I got this illness from jail. I shouldn't have been in that disgusting place, she said, her voice filled with bitterness. Grace sighed, trying to remain patient. We have to deal with the situation as it is, Isabella. Complaining won't change what happened. I'm hungry. Don't we have anything to eat? Isabella demanded rudely. Grace frowned, her patience wearing thin. We don't have anything to eat. Why are you making things hard for us? We still have to make money for your treatment, she said, her frustration clear. Isabella glared at her mother. It's all your fault this happened to me. I went to jail because my supposed father bailed on me. Don't you have any diamond necklaces with you? The ones Dad bought for you? What about the monthly allowance Dad gives you? Where are they? Why are we living like this when we have jewelry we can sell and save money? Grace's anger flared up. You know fully well your dad threw me out with nothing valuable on me. David made sure he took everything, the jewelries, the accessories, and the shoes. I have no access to my credit cards. I was caught off guard, so you better watch your mouth. Where are your savings, too? You buy a lot of expensive things that we can sell. Where are they? Weren't you working at David's company as a manager? Isabella looked at Grace with disbelief and anger. I didn't take any of that with me when I started living at Julian's condo. Grace's frustration boiled over. You never think ahead, do you? You always expect everyone else to clean up your mess. Well, this time, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of your actions. We have nothing left because of your reckless decisions, and now we have to figure out how to survive. You need to start taking responsibility for your own life.
Dear listener, the upcoming episode will be today's last free episode of this story. Come back tomorrow to enjoy free episodes or get coins now to continue listening.
Isabella's expression shifted from disbelief to defiance, her jaw clenching as she glared at her mother. Grace's eyes were hard, her patience finally snapping. Don't you have friends to help you? You had better get treatment because you look horrible. How are we supposed to get a job when you look like that? Grace snapped. Isabella's eyes narrowed, anger simmering beneath the surface. Friends? You think I have friends left after everything that's happened? They all turned their backs on me the moment things went south, she said, her voice bitter. Grace shook her head, frustration evident in her features. Then what are we supposed to do, Isabella? We can't keep going like this. You need to find a way to get better. We need money for your treatment. Do you have any idea what that costs? Isabella's face twisted with a mix of anger and desperation. What do you want me to do, Grace? Beg on the streets? Sell whatever little dignity I have left? She spat. Grace's glare softened slightly, though the tension remained. We need to be practical. You have to get better, and we need to survive. We need to find a way, any way, to make some money and get you the treatment you need, she said, her voice quieter but firm. Isabella looked away, tears of frustration welling up in her eyes. I hate this. I hate all of it. But fine, I'll try to figure something out, she muttered, her voice trembling with suppressed emotion. Only if we can get a chance to talk to Arya, Grace mumbled. 2 days later, Arya and Alexander were heading out for a high-profile charity gala at one of the city's most prestigious hotels. It was a glittering event, teeming with celebrities, business tycoons, and paparazzi eager to capture every moment. Arya, with her glowing pregnancy bump, looked radiant in a custom designer gown. As their car pulled up to the entrance, a fleet of bodyguards surrounded the vehicle, ensuring the couple's safety. The flashing lights from the cameras illuminated their path, capturing every moment. Alexander, ever the protective husband, kept a firm hand on Arya's waist, guiding her through the crowd. The excitement was palpable, and everyone wanted a piece of their charm. The streets outside the hotel were lined with curious onlookers and photographers, hoping to catch a glimpse of the couple. Among the crowd, trying to remain inconspicuous, were Grace and Isabella. Grace had convinced Isabella that this might be their only chance to approach Arya and Alexander and seek some form of help or closure. Isabella, despite her overwhelming reluctance and humiliation, had agreed to come. Isabella's face was marred by rashes, a stark contrast to Arya's glowing beauty. She felt the eyes of the crowd on her, judging and whispering, as she clutched at her ragged coat, trying to hide her illness and disheveled appearance. The envy and resentment churned within her as she watched Arya. As Arya and Alexander made their way toward the hotel's entrance, the flash of cameras illuminating their path, Grace seized the moment. She grabbed Isabella's hand and they pushed through the crowd, determined to make themselves seen. Arya! Grace's voice cut through the noise, strained but loud enough to reach Arya's ears. Arya turned, her eyes widening in surprise as she saw her estranged stepmother and Isabella. The couple turned, surprise evident on Arya's face. Alexander immediately stepped forward, his protective instincts on high alert. What are you doing here? He demanded, his voice cold. Isabella's eyes met Arya's, and the wave of jealousy and hatred surged within her. She hated how beautiful and happy Arya looked, how she had everything Isabella had lost. Arya, please, Grace began, her voice wavering. We needed to talk to you. It's important. Arya's eyes fell on Isabella, who was glaring at her with a mixture of jealousy and hatred. Isabella's once beautiful face was now a testament to her suffering, covered in rashes and marked by the hardships she had faced. The bodyguards, sensing the tension, moved closer, ready to intervene if necessary. Alexander's grip tightened on Arya, but she held up a hand, signaling him to stay back. She approached them cautiously. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady but devoid of warmth. Isabella's anger flared. "Look at you, Arya," she spat, her voice filled with bitterness. "Living a perfect life while I suffer every day because of you." Arya raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by Isabella's outburst. "You brought this upon yourself, Isabella. Your actions have consequences." Grace, trying to salvage the situation, knelt down, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Arya, we're desperate. Isabella needs medical treatment, and we have nowhere else to turn." Arya's expression hardened. "Your desperation doesn't change the fact that Isabella has never shown an ounce of regret for what she's done to me. This isn't about forgiveness or charity. It's about facing the consequences of your actions." Isabella's face contorted with rage and humiliation as the paparazzi snapped photos, capturing her shame and Arya's unyielding stance. The crowd whispered, and some even voiced their opinions. "Look at her, the wicked stepsister finally getting what she deserves," one person muttered. "She thought she could ruin Arya's life and get away with it," another added. Grace, still on her knees, sobbed openly. "Please, Arya, I'm begging you." Arya looked at her former stepmother with cold eyes. "You expect me to forgive and forget, after everything you've done? No. This isn't a fairy tale where everything gets a happy ending. You made your bed, now lie in it." Isabella's rage boiled over. "You're just a stuck-up princess who got lucky," she screamed, her voice cracking. "You think you're better than me just because you're rich now?" Arya stepped closer, her voice icy. "Better than you? Isabella, I didn't need wealth to be better than you. I've always been better because I never stooped to your level. You were cruel, vindictive, and hateful. You tried to destroy me, but look where I am now. Look at you. This is your doing." The photographers continued to snap away, capturing the drama. Isabella's face burned with shame and anger as people around her pointed and whispered, their words cutting deeper than any illness. A passerby sneered, "Is that really her? The one who used to bully Arya? Look at her now getting what she deserves." Another onlooker chimed in, "How pathetic. She thought she could treat people like trash and come out unscathed. She even dared sleep with Arya's ex-fiancé. What an evil person. Even a criminal. Do you remember when she was arrested for sabotage?" Grace, still on her knees, sobbed openly. "Please, Arya, I'm begging you." Arya's expression didn't soften. "You think begging will erase the years of abuse? The lies? The pain? No, Grace, I'm done with both of you. You want help? Go find it somewhere else." The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Grace lied to David for years, pretending Isabella was his daughter. "What a gold digger," someone said. "Yeah, and Isabella's nothing but a fake and a bastard," another added. The harsh words from the crowd stung Isabella. She had always prided herself on her appearance and status, and now, reduced to this, the shame was unbearable. "Shut up, you all shut up," she shouted, her voice hysterical. Just then, the sound of police sirens filled the air. Police cars pulled up to the scene, their lights flashing. Officers stepped out and approached the group. Alexander smirked, knowing what was about to happen, while the paparazzi eagerly prepared their cameras. "Isabella Johnson?" one of the officers asked. Isabella's eyes widened in panic. "What? What do you want?" "You're under arrest for the murder of Tyler Tanner," the officer said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. Arya's eyes widened in shock. She had heard that name from somewhere, but from where? Grace's face went pale. "No, this can't be happening." Isabella began to laugh hysterically, a wild, crazed sound. "They're lying! They're all lying!" Isabella screamed, her voice cracking with desperation. She thrashed as the officers tried to restrain her, her once composed demeanor completely shattered. The crowd watched with a mix of horror and fascination. "Murder?" I knew she was trouble, someone murmured. As the officers secured the handcuffs around Isabella's wrists, she continued to struggle. You can't do this to me. I'm not a murderer. Her eyes darted frantically, looking for any sign of support, but she found none. Grace, still on her knees, sobbed uncontrollably. Please don't take her. She's my daughter. Arya watched the scene unfold with a mixture of pity and satisfaction. She turned to Alexander, who nodded, understanding her silent cue. He stepped forward, his presence commanding the attention of the officers. Officer, Alexander said, his voice steady, make sure this is handled discreetly. We don't need any more of a spectacle than there already is. The officer nodded. Of course, Mr. Harrington. We'll handle it from here. Isabella's eyes met Arya's one last time. The hatred and jealousy were still there, but they were now mixed with a helplessness she couldn't hide. This isn't over, Arya, she spat. I'll never forgive you for this. Arya's expression remained cold. Forgive me? I don't need your forgiveness. Enjoy your stay in prison. Goodbye, Isabella. As the officers led Isabella away, the crowd began to disperse, the excitement of the scandal already buzzing on social media. The paparazzi captured every moment, ensuring the downfall of Isabella and Grace would be well documented. Grace reached out to Arya, her face a mask of despair. Please, Arya, I'm begging you. Don't let them take her. Arya looked down at Grace, her heart hardening further. It's too late, Grace. You should have thought about the consequences before you both decided to ruin my life. Did you think I didn't know you tried to create doubts and suspicions in my marriage by using Melissa? Now you're just reaping what you sowed. Alexander put a protective arm around Arya, guiding her away from the chaotic scene. Let's go, Arya. We've done what we needed to. Arya looked up at Alexander, her voice barely above a whisper. Tyler Tanner? I've heard that name before, but I can't quite place it. Alexander nodded. You have heard of him, Arya. Tyler Tanner was the boy who tricked me, the one Nathan found and exposed. Arya's eyes widened as the memory came flooding back. Wait, isn't he the kid on the street they used to distract you? But how is he dead? Alexander's expression turned grim. Isabella was foolish to trust Julian. He manipulated her into committing a heinous crime. Julian was the one who sent the DNA documents to David, and he orchestrated the whole thing, including Tyler's murder. He had already ruined her life before he died. It was obvious he never trusted her. He didn't want to go down alone. But why kill the kid? Arya asked. Because he opened his mouth. I would have saved him, but it was too late. The deed has been done, Alexander said in a low tone. At the police station. Isabella sat in the cold, dimly lit interrogation room of the police station, her hands cuffed to the metal table in front of her. The room's starkness only added to her growing sense of despair and confusion. She had been in and out of hysteria since her arrest, her mind reeling from the rapid downfall of her life. There is no way I'm going to jail again. No, there is no way that is going to happen, Isabella said to herself. Who the hell is Tyler Tanner and why am I being accused of killing him? A detective walked in, carrying a laptop, and placed it on the table in front of her. Isabella Johnson, he began, his voice steady and professional. We have evidence that ties you to the murder of Tyler. We need you to watch this video. Isabella's eyes widened in shock and panic. What video? What are you talking about? I have no idea who Tyler is. The detective didn't respond immediately. Instead, he pressed play on the laptop. The screen flickered to life, showing grainy footage of a secluded area. The camera was positioned to capture Isabella and Julian in what seemed to be a tense conversation. Isabella watched, her breath hitching as the scene unfolded. The video showed Isabella and Julian standing in front of a wooden plank. Julian's voice, though slightly distorted, was clear enough to make out. Isabella, you want revenge on everyone that wronged you, don't you? Julian's voice was calm and manipulative. Isabella, visibly agitated in the video, nodded. Yes, but I don't know how. Julian smirked, pulling out a gun. Isabella's hands trembled as she took the gun from Julian. She aimed at the plank, unaware that Tyler, bound and gagged, was tied behind it. The video showed Isabella hesitating, then pulling the trigger. The plank splintered, and Tyler's muffled scream was barely audible. The video cut off abruptly, leaving Isabella in a state of utter disbelief. Isabella's eyes were wide with shock as she processed what she had just seen. Her mind raced, trying to comprehend the enormity of what had happened. She had no idea Tyler was behind the plank, that Julian had set her up so meticulously. No. This can't be real, she whispered, her voice shaking. Julian, you bastard, how could you do this to me? You ruined my life before you died. I hope you rot in hell. Her voice escalated into a scream, filled with rage and anguish. She thrashed against the cuffs, her face contorted with a mixture of fury and despair. That psychopath, that monster. He manipulated me. He tricked me. I didn't know Tyler was there. I didn't know. The detective watched impassively, letting her outburst run its course. When she finally slumped back in her chair, exhausted from her ranting, he leaned forward. Isabella, you have the right to an attorney. I suggest you use it. But know this, the evidence is damning. Isabella's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Julian had set her up, knowing full well what the consequences would be. She felt trapped, betrayed, and utterly defeated. As the detective continued to outline the charges and the case against her, her thoughts kept circling back to one thing. Julian had played her like a pawn in his twisted game. Her voice was hoarse from screaming, but she managed to speak. I didn't know, detective. I swear I didn't know Tyler was there. The detective nodded, his expression unchanged. The fact remains. You pulled the trigger. You killed someone. Isabella's mind was a blur as the reality of her situation sank in. She was facing a murder charge, and the evidence was overwhelmingly against her. Her life, already in ruins, seemed to crumble even further as she sat in that interrogation room, the weight of her actions pressing down on her like never before. At the police station, Isabella sat in the cold, dimly lit interrogation room. Her right hand was cuffed to the metal table in front of her. The harsh lighting highlighted the rashes on her face, a symptom of her lupus. She felt the itchiness intensify with her stress, but tried to ignore it. Her once glamorous appearance was now a distant memory, replaced by a disheveled and desperate appearance. The door creaked open, and Grace walked in, tears streaming down her face. She looked worn out, her clothes disheveled, and her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and frustration. Murder? Isabella, murder, really? Why is this happening to you? To us? How could you even have the mind to kill a fellow human? Grace asked, her voice shaking with disbelief and anger. Isabella's eyes welled up with tears as she began to cry. Please tell me you believe me, Mother. There is no way I would kill someone. Grace scoffed, her expression a mixture of skepticism and resignation. I know you, Isabella. Weren't you the one who told Ava to poison Arya? Isabella's face contorted with frustration. No, that's not it. 2. I'm telling the truth, Mother. I didn't kill Tyler. It's all Julian's fault. He made me pull the trigger. Grace's eyes widened in shock. So you did kill the boy? Isabella, her anger boiling over, slammed her hands on the table, causing a loud bang that echoed through the room. I said I didn't kill him. Why aren't you listening to me? Grace flinched, stepping back slightly. Fine, if you say so. But what are we going to do? How do we get you out of here? What did the detective say? Isabella took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. The detective said they have a video of me shooting Tyler. But it's not what it looks like. Julian tricked me. He set it all up to make it look like I killed him. I need a lawyer. Grace's face twisted with frustration. How do we get a lawyer? We have no money for that, Isabella. You're fully aware of that. We are poor. You're sick, and now you need a lawyer. Isabella sighed, her mind racing. She began scratching her rashes as she thought, trying to come up with a solution. There is no way I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail. I am not going back to that place again. It's like hell. Grace's expression softened slightly, but her frustration was still evident. We need to get a lawyer for you, But we don't have money to get one. Don't you have any idea of how we can get money? Please think. Isabella ruffled her hair in frustration, trying to think of a way to get money. Suddenly, her eyes widened as an idea struck her. The ring. The proposal ring. Grace raised an eyebrow. What ring? What are you talking about? I just remembered the ring Ryan used to propose to me months back. We can actually sell it and use the money to get a lawyer, Isabella said, a bit of relief washing over her. Grace frowned, disbelief etched on her face. You knew about the ring all this while we were suffering, hungry, and homeless, yet you didn't think of telling me and bringing it out? Isabella rolled her eyes. You don't have to blame me or make me look bad for not saying anything. It wasn't in my mind. I had totally forgotten about the ring because it was cheap. Grace's frown deepened. So how much do you think the ring is worth? About $80,000 or $100,000? Not sure, Isabella replied. Grace gasped. You call $100,000 ring cheap? You're really something. You had that ring all these days but didn't think of telling me, and now you're just saying it because you need a lawyer. Isabella shrugged, indifferent. It didn't cross my mind. It's not like I thought it would come to this. Grace's frustration turned to anger. Where is the ring? Isabella's face fell. That is the problem. I kept it somewhere in my father's house. I can't remember exactly where. Grace scoffed, her eyes flaring up. What do you mean you cannot remember? It's not my fault, okay? I was arrested after that, remember? And when I was bailed out, I didn't move back into the mansion, Isabella retorted, her voice rising. Grace sighed, her expression a mix of despair and resignation. So how do you expect me to get the ring? Remember, David threw me out of the house. There is no way I would be allowed back in. Isabella's mind raced, trying to think of an alternative. What about my engagement ring from Julian? Do you have it? Arya was in the kitchen, preparing dinner for Alexander. It had been a while since she cooked, and she wanted to surprise him. The smell of roasted chicken and fresh herbs filled the air as she worked on the sauce for the pasta. She hummed softly, feeling content despite her growing belly. Veronica, their house help, had offered to take over, but Arya insisted on doing it herself. I just feel like cooking tonight, Veronica. Thank you, though, she had said with a warm smile. The sound of the front door opening signaled Alexander's return from work. Arya's heart fluttered in anticipation. Alexander walked into the kitchen, surprised to see Arya at the stove. Why are you cooking, love? Where's Veronica? He asked, walking up to her and wrapping his arms around her waist. He kissed her gently on the cheek and then on the corners of her mouth. Arya leaned into his embrace, savoring the moment. I wanted to prepare your meal. It's been a while since I cooked for you, she said, smiling. Alexander looked concerned. No, my love. You should be resting. I'm tired of lying in bed all day. Besides, I love cooking, she replied, turning to face him. I do love it when you cook, he admitted, smiling back at her. Arya laughed softly. I noticed. Just then, a warm wetness slid down Arya's legs and pooled at her feet. She gasped and looked down, feeling a slight kick from the baby. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized what was happening. Her water had just broken. Alexander! She called, her voice a mix of surprise and urgency. Alexander's eyes widened in alarm. What is it? Are you okay? Are you in pain? My water just broke, she announced, pointing to the growing wet spot on her dress. Alexander looked confused for a moment, then realization dawned on him. Wait, what? Does that mean... I'm in labor, Arya confirmed, her voice steady despite the situation. Alexander's face went pale, and he grabbed her hand, his voice filled with worry. What do you need me to do? I need you to get the hospital bag. It's in our bedroom, Arya instructed. I can't leave you here alone, Alexander protested. I'll be fine. Please, just hurry, she urged him. Alexander hesitated for a moment, then quickly ran upstairs to grab the bag. Veronica, hearing the commotion, rushed into the kitchen. Madame Arya, are you all right? She asked, her eyes wide with concern. Arya nodded, trying to stay calm. My water just broke. Can you help me get to the living room? Veronica immediately moved to support Arya, helping her walk to the living room just as Alexander came rushing back with the hospital bag. Are you okay? He asked, his voice trembling. Oh no, I'm not okay, Arya said, wincing as a contraction hit her. Alexander's panic was palpable. Okay, we need to go to the hospital now. Veronica, call the driver and get the car ready. Veronica nodded and hurried to make the call. Within moments, the driver had the car ready, and the bodyguards were at the door, ready to escort them. Alexander helped Arya to the car, holding her hand tightly. Everything will be fine, love. We're almost there, he reassured her, though his own anxiety was evident. As they drove to the hospital, the bodyguards followed closely in another car, ensuring their safety. The tension in the car was thick, but Alexander kept his focus on Arya, trying to keep her calm. At the hospital. Upon arrival, the hospital staff quickly whisked Arya into a room. Alexander stood by her side, holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement. It's going to be all right, Arya. Just breathe, he said, stroking her hair. Arya gripped his hand tightly, tears in her eyes. I'm scared, Alexander. I know, love. But you're strong, and you're going to do amazing things. I promise, he replied, his voice full of love and reassurance. Veronica stood close by, ready to assist in any way she could. The bodyguards ensured that everything was secure and that no one could disturb them during this crucial time. Hours passed, and the labor was intense. Alexander never left Arya's side, offering her strength and support. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the sound of a baby crying filled the room. It's a boy, the doctor announced, placing the newborn on Arya's chest. Tears of joy streamed down Arya's face as she looked at her son. Alexander, overwhelmed with emotion, kissed Arya's forehead. He's perfect, just like you, he whispered. Arya looked up at him, smiling through her tears. We did it, Alexander. We have a beautiful baby boy. Before they could fully absorb the moment, another wave of contractions hit Arya. She cried out in pain, squeezing Alexander's hand. The second birth. All right, here comes the second one, the doctor said. Another big push, Arya. Arya took a deep breath and pushed with all her might. Another cry filled the room. It's a girl, the doctor announced, placing the second baby on Arya's chest next to her brother. Alexander's heart swelled with pride and love as he looked at his daughter. Our little princess, he said, tears streaming down his face. Arya was exhausted but overjoyed. She's beautiful, she whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. The third birth. But it wasn't over yet. Arya felt another contraction, signaling the arrival of their third child. She gathered all her remaining strength for one final push. Here comes the last one, the doctor encouraged. You're almost there, Arya. With a final, determined effort, Arya pushed again. The room was filled with the cry of their third child. It's another boy, the doctor said, placing the baby in Alexander's arms. Alexander looked down at his son, his heart bursting with love and gratitude. He's perfect, he said, his voice choked with emotion. Alexander and Arya were surrounded by their 3 newborns, the room filled with love and joy. Alexander carefully placed the boy in Arya's arms next to his siblings. They both stared at their children, overwhelmed by the miracle they had just experienced. You did it, Arya. You gave us a beautiful family, Alexander said, his voice filled with awe. Arya looked up at him, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. We did it together, she replied, her voice soft and full of love. Alexander leaned down and kissed her gently. You're my queen, Arya. Thank you for giving me the greatest gift of all. Arya smiled, her heart overflowing with love. I love you, Alexander. I love you too, Arya. More than anything, he said, looking at their 3 children with pride. And I love our beautiful babies. They looked at their 3 children, each one a perfect blend of their love. Arya and Alexander exchanged a look, silently agreeing on the names they had chosen. For our first boy, let's name him Hayden, Alexander said, smiling at the baby in his arms. And our little girl will be named Layla, Arya added, gazing at their daughter with love. And our last boy, Alexander said, looking at the baby in Arya's arms, will be named Jaden. Arya nodded, tears streaming down her face. Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. Our perfect little family. Alexander and Arya held their children close, savoring the moment. The love in the room was palpable, each one of them basking in the joy of their new family. You did amazing, my queen, Alexander said, kissing Arya's forehead. I am so proud of you. Arya smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. We did it together, Alexander. Thank you for being by my side. Always, he promised, his eyes filled with love. You and our children are my everything. The room was filled with happiness as they celebrated the arrival of Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. Surrounded by love, they knew that their family was complete, and their future was bright. Layla has your eyes, Arya told Alexander with a smile on her face. That's my little princess, Alexander replied. Grandma is on her way to the hospital. Wow, so fast, Arya said. She is going to freak out when she sees their three, Alexander smirked. I told you we should have told her, Arya replied, her eyes on her babies, happier than ever. Alexander chuckled. It's more fun seeing her surprised. After the birth of their triplets, Hayden, Layla, and Jaden, the medical staff promptly took the babies to be cleaned and dressed. Nurses Patrina and Michelle expertly handled the newborns, washing and swaddling them in soft, cozy blankets. Once the babies were ready, instead of bringing them immediately back to the room, they were placed in a crib in the neonatal care unit, where they would be monitored briefly to ensure their health and stability. A few moments later, Arya lay in the hospital bed, looking exhausted but content. Alexander was by her side, his eyes filled with love as he gazed at their newborn triplets, Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. The nurses, Patrina and Michelle, had just finished cleaning and dressing the babies. They moved the babies back into Arya's room. They placed them gently in a crib beside Arya's bed. In the hallway outside the delivery room, excitement buzzed as family members arrived one by one. Grandma Yolanda was the first to burst through the doors, her face glowing with excitement and curiosity. Alexander! Arya! I can't believe it! 3 babies! 3 beautiful babies! Yolanda exclaimed, her eyes wide with astonishment and joy. Gabriel, entering just behind her, was equally stunned. Son Arya, this is incredible! 3 at once! You've really outdone yourselves, he said, his voice filled with pride. Jessica rushed in with tears of joy in her eyes. 3 nieces and nephews all at once. This is the best day ever. How are you feeling, Arya? Alexander couldn't help but laugh at their reactions. We wanted to surprise you. It's a big day for us all. Grandma Yolanda, tears of joy streaming down her face, stepped closer to Arya. Arya, my dear, you have given us such a wonderful gift. Thank you. Arya, despite her fatigue, smiled warmly. Of course, Grandma. Ethan entered the room, looking a bit reserved but still impressed. Congratulations, Alexander. 3 at once, that's quite something. Alexander nodded, appreciating the sentiment. Thanks, Ethan. It's a lot to take in, but we couldn't have been happier. Gloria, Ethan's wife, approached Arya with a warm smile. You did an amazing job, Arya. How are you feeling? Arya sighed, her exhaustion evident. Tired but so happy. It's all worth it. Alicia, Alexander's mother, embraced her son tightly, then moved to kiss Arya on the forehead. You are both so strong and brave. I'm so proud of you. Alexander, enjoying the shock on everyone's faces, grinned broadly. I knew this would surprise you all. We wanted it to be a big reveal. Grandma Yolanda's eyes widened in shock as she took in the sight of 3 babies. 3 babies! Alexander, Arya, you didn't tell me you were having triplets. This is incredible. I still can't believe it. She moved closer, tears of joy streaming down her face. Oh, they are absolutely precious. Can I hold them? Alexander nodded, his face beaming. Of course, Grandma. Meet your great-grandchildren. Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. Arya, though exhausted, managed a tired but radiant smile. It's been quite a journey, but seeing them here makes it all worth it. The room was filled with a sense of awe and love as the family gathered around. Grandma Yolanda gently picked up Hayden, marveling at his tiny features. "Oh, Hayden, you are so precious." Gabriel held Layla, his eyes shining with pride. "Layla, you have brought so much joy to our lives already." Alessia took Jaden in her arms, her face glowing. "Jaden, welcome to the world, little one. You are so loved." Arya and Alexander watched, their hearts full. The room was filled with the joyful smell of newborn babies and the overwhelming love of family. Turning to Arya, Gabriel said, "Arya, you've been amazing. I can't imagine the strength it took to bring these little ones into the world. Thank you." Ethan, standing slightly apart, finally stepped forward. "Alexander, congratulations. This is quite an achievement. You've got a big family now. Take good care of them." Alexander nodded, his expression serious. "Thank you, Ethan. I will. Family means everything to me." The room was filled with the joy and excitement of new life. The smell of newborn babies, the gentle cooing sounds, and the loving gazes from the family created a warm, intimate atmosphere. Alexander and Arya, though exhausted, felt an overwhelming sense of completeness and happiness as they watched their family celebrate the arrival of Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. After the family had gathered to celebrate the birth of Hayden, Layla, and Jaden, a doctor and nurse Petrina entered the room. They greeted Grandma Yolanda warmly and congratulated Alexander and Arya. "Congratulations to the new parents," the doctor said with a smile. "Arya, you did an amazing job. However, you and the babies need rest now. We'll need to ask everyone to step out so you can get some much-needed sleep." Grandma Yolanda leaned over and kissed Arya gently on the forehead. "Rest well, my dear. You've earned it." Gabriel gave Arya's hand a gentle squeeze before turning to Alexander. "We'll see you all soon. Take care of your beautiful family." Jessica, still beaming with joy, gave Arya a quick hug. "Congratulations again, Arya. You did wonderfully." As everyone filed out of the room, Alexander stayed behind for a moment. He leaned in and kissed Arya softly on the lips. "I love you so much. Thank you for our 3 gems," he whispered, his eyes filled with emotion. He then turned to look at the crib where his children were sleeping peacefully. Hayden, Layla, and Jaden lay swaddled in soft blankets, their tiny chests rising and falling with each breath. The sight filled Alexander with a profound sense of gratitude and love. With one last loving glance at his wife and children, Alexander quietly left the room, allowing Arya to rest. Meanwhile, in a small pizza shop across town, Ryan was waiting for an order to finish. As he glanced at the TV mounted on the wall, he saw a news report flashing the headline, "Alexander Harrington's wife gives birth to triplets." The screen showed a photo of Alexander and Arya, looking radiant and happy. The sight hit Ryan like a punch to the gut. Tears welled up in his eyes as he thought about what he had lost. How could he have been so stupid? He had let the most precious gems slip through his fingers. Ryan was so deep in thought, replaying his mistakes over and over in his mind, that he didn't hear his boss calling him. "Ryan, the pizzas are ready," his boss shouted. Ryan snapped back to reality, hastily wiping his eyes. "Sorry, boss. I'll get them out right away." As he loaded the pizzas into the delivery bag, he couldn't shake the feeling of regret and longing. He had lost Arya, and now he was watching from the sidelines as she built a beautiful life without him. Alexander was truly lucky, and Ryan couldn't help but blame himself for everything he had lost. Ryan's thoughts were consumed by regret and self-loathing as he lamented his downward spiral. "I've lost everything that ever mattered to me," he thought to himself. "My high-paying job, gone, squandered away by my own foolishness. The one woman who truly loved me, slipped through my fingers. The house I worked so hard to build now belongs to the bank, and to top it all off, I'm reduced to delivering pizzas, a far cry from the success I once knew. I've hit rock bottom, and it's all thanks to my own stupidity." Grace had not slept well in days. The news of Arya's successful birth of triplets had spread like wildfire, and the stark contrast between Arya's happiness and her own misery gnawed at her. She was on her way to visit her daughter Isabella in jail, her mind a turbulent mix of anger, regret, and disillusionment. 3 days had passed since the announcement. Grace had hoped for some solace in visiting her daughter, but as she entered the jail's visiting area, her resolve hardened. Isabella sat behind the glass partition, her face twisted in a sneer as she saw Grace approach. "Mom, did you hear the news?" Isabella began, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Arya gave birth to triplets. Can you believe that?" Grace's eyes narrowed as she took in her daughter's face, seeing not the girl she once loved, but the monster she had allowed to grow. "Yes, I heard, and I know you aren't happy about it." Isabella's sneer turned into a scowl. "Why would I be happy? She gets everything, and look where I am. It's not fair." Grace leaned closer to the glass, her voice low and filled with bitterness. "You know why you're here, Isabella. Your greed, your wickedness, your heartlessness. You ruined everything." Isabella's eyes widened in surprise. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about how you destroyed our lives," Grace spat. "I thought I could protect you, help you, but all I did was enable you to become this creature. You have no one to blame but yourself." Isabella's face twisted in anger. "You're blaming me for all this? You always told me that I could get anything I wanted. You always told me not to lose anything to Arya." Grace shook her head slowly, her eyes filled with a sorrowful regret. "I cared too much. I let you get away with too much. And now look at us. Look at what you've done." Isabella was about to retort when Grace interrupted her. "I sold the ring," she said flatly. "What?" Isabella asked, confused. "The ring Julian used to propose to you? It was worth nothing more than $20,000, and I could only get $2,000 for it at the pawn shop." Isabella's face turned red with fury. "You what? That ring was mine. Julian was such a cheap psychopath. I can't believe he got such a cheap ring for me compared to the one Ryan got for me. I hope his body rots and stinks in his grave. He should rot in hell." Grace's expression hardened. "It was never yours to keep, just like everything else you've tried to hold on to. And now I can't even afford a lawyer for you. I'm done, Isabella." Isabella's eyes bulged as she stood up, banging on the glass partition. "You can't leave me here. You're my mother. You have to help me. My trial is in 2 days. I need to get out of this place." Grace stood up, her face set in a hard line. "No, Isabella. You need to face the consequences of your actions. I regret ever letting you become what you are now. Maybe you'll change one day, but by then, I'm done." Isabella began to scream, her voice echoing off the walls of the visiting area. "You can't do this. I'll make you pay. I'll make everyone pay." The guards rushed in, trying to calm her down as she continued to thrash and scream. "She's insane," one of them muttered, calling for the on-site doctor. Grace watched, her heart heavy, as her daughter raged against the world. "This is your own doing, Isabella," she said quietly, before turning to leave. As Grace walked out of the jail, she felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. She had finally confronted the monster she had helped create, and now she had to live with the consequences. But she also felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the first step towards healing. For herself, if not for Isabella. Inside the jail, the guards restrained Isabella, and the doctor arrived to assess her mental state. Her screams echoed through the corridors, a haunting reminder of the path she had chosen. Grace didn't look back as she left. For the first time in a long time, she was looking forward to a new beginning. As she walked down the street, her thoughts wandered to Arya and the triplets, wishing she had made different choices in life. Lost in thought, Grace stepped off the curb, not noticing the car speeding towards her. The driver's eyes widened in horror as he realized he wouldn't be able to stop in time. The sound of screeching tires filled the air, and in an instant, Grace was hit. Alexander sat beside Arya's hospital bed, his eyes fixed on the precious bundle of joy in her arms. 3 days had passed since the birth of their triplets, and he still couldn't believe his luck. He gently stroked Arya's hair, his fingers tracing the soft curves of her face. "You're doing amazing, Arya," he whispered, his voice filled with admiration. "You're an incredible mother." Arya smiled, her eyes shining with exhaustion and joy. "We did it, Alexander. We made these little miracles." Alexander's eyes welled up with tears as he gazed at their children. "We sure did," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. "And I promise to always be here for you, for our family, forever." Arya's eyes met his, and she reached out her hand, her fingers intertwining with his. "Forever," she whispered back. Hayden, Layla, and Jaden stirred in unison, their tiny hands waving in the air. Alexander chuckled, his heart overflowing with love. "Look at them," he whispered. "They're already synchronized." Arya laughed, her eyes sparkling. "I know, right? They're already little bundles of joy." Alexander leaned in, his lips brushing against Arya's forehead. "You're the bundle of joy, Arya. You're the one who brought light into my life." Arya's face flushed, her eyes shining with happiness. "You're the one who brought light into mine, Alexander. You and our little miracles." As they sat there, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the soft coos of their children, Alexander knew that this was the moment he would cherish forever. The moment he knew that he would do anything to protect and love his family. The moment he knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be. "Can I hold them?" Alexander asked, his eyes pleading. Arya smiled, her eyes shining with amusement. "Of course you can, but be careful, they're tiny." Alexander's face lit up with excitement as he gently took Hayden, Layla, and Jaden in his arms. He cradled them close, his heart overflowing with love. "I can't believe I get to hold all 3 of my little miracles at once," Alexander whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "I feel like the luckiest man alive." He carefully adjusted his hold, making sure each baby was secure and comfortable. Hayden nestled into the crook of his left arm, Layla snuggled into the curve of his right, and Jaden fit perfectly in the center, his tiny head resting on Alexander's chest. "Look at this," Alexander marveled. "I've got all 3 of my little loves right here. I feel like I'm holding a piece of heaven in my arms." Arya's eyes shone with tears as she gazed at her little family. "You're an amazing father, Alexander," she whispered. "And I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you." Alexander's eyes met hers, his heart full of love and gratitude. "I couldn't do it without you, Arya," he whispered back. "We're in this together, always. I promise to always protect you, little ones," he whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "I promise to always be here for you, to love you, to cherish you." Arya's eyes met his, and she smiled softly. "We promise, little ones," she whispered. "We promise to always love you, to always be here for you, forever." A few weeks later, it was the day of welcoming Hayden, Layla, and Jaden into the Harrington family. Their naming ceremony and celebration were set to take place, with many elites in Seattle invited to join the Harringtons in celebrating the arrival of the new additions and to congratulate the couple. In Alexander's mansion, his family was present. Gabriel, Alessia, Ethan, Gloria, and her children, Cole and Chloe, Jessica, and Mason, were all gathered in the large and exquisite living room. Jessica, Alicia, and Gloria were engaged in conversation, while Gabriel was enjoying a glass of whiskey with Ethan at the bar. The children, Mason, Cole, and Chloe, were running and playing around the house, talking about their uncle's big house and how nice it was. "Wow, this place is huge," Mason exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. "I know, right?" Cole replied, grinning. "I could play hide and seek here forever, unlike at Grandma's castle. The maids are always watching us." Chloe giggled. "And just think of all the places we could hide. We'll have so much fun." "This place is like a palace," Mason exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. "Yeah, Uncle Alexander must be super rich," Cole added, glancing around in awe. "I wish we could live here," Chloe said dreamily. "It's so beautiful." Then Chloe's eyes lit up with an idea. Hey, let's go look at the babies. The trio made their way towards the cribs where Hayden, Layla, and Jaden were resting. Hayden was sleeping peacefully, while Layla and Jaden had their little eyes wide open, their tiny legs kicking. They're so pretty, Chloe cooed, touching Layla's small hand gently. I've always wanted a baby sister. Layla and I can play dress up, and we can go shopping for nice dolls. Cole and Mason laughed. That's so girly, Cole teased. Yeah, we're going to teach Hayden and Jaden to play video games and football, Mason added, touching Hayden's small hand. It'll be awesome. I will teach Layla to dress up, Chloe said. Cole teased. Dress up is boring. You should teach her something cool. Mason agreed. Yeah, like how to play video games. Chloe rolled her eyes playfully. Girls can do both, you know. Jessica smiled as she watched her son with his cousins. Mason seems to want a younger one, Gloria remarked. Jessica's eyes widened in surprise. What? She asked, her face flushing slightly. Gloria covered her mouth quickly. I'm so sorry for blurting that out. Forgive me. I know you're a single mother and I shouldn't have said that. Jessica returned a small smile. No, it's okay. You didn't say anything wrong? It seems you're right, she said, still looking at her son. Maybe Mason does want a sibling. Alicia chimed in, her voice warm. You've done a wonderful job raising Mason, Jessica. He's a delightful child. Jessica sighed softly. Mason has met his father. I introduced them some days back and he's so excited. They've been meeting each other and going out. Gloria's eyes widened in surprise. Wow. So you mean Mason has finally met his father? You did the right thing by introducing them. It wouldn't be right not to. They're father and son, after all. Who is he? Alessia, always supportive of Jessica, added, I'm so proud of you, Jessica. It takes a lot of courage to do that. Jessica smiled appreciatively. Thank you, Alessia. His father is Raphael. We dated briefly and he didn't know about Mason until recently. He's been wonderful with him so far. So, have you thought of getting back with him now he knows who his son is? You know, like living as a family? Gloria asked, curious. Jessica smiled. Not yet. I'm not in a hurry. I need to learn more about him first, Jessica replied. Just then, Gabriel approached the women. Where are the new parents? Are they still getting ready? He asked. I'm sure they'll be down soon, Alessia replied. It's been an hour since we've been waiting for them, Ethan added, a hint of impatience in his voice. Jessica laughed softly. I'm sure they're just making sure everything is perfect before coming down. This is a big day for them. Meanwhile, in Arya and Alexander's room. Arya stood in her underwear, trying to put on her clothes, when Alexander suddenly wrapped his arms around her waist, kissing her neck and moving downwards. Arya giggled, her eyes meeting Alexander's in the mirror. She saw the intensity in his gaze and felt a shiver of excitement. Alexander, she whispered, we can't possibly do this now. Your family is waiting for us downstairs. It would be rude to keep them waiting. Alexander ignored her protest, his hands moving up to fondle her chest. Let them wait a little longer, he murmured against her skin. I can't resist you, Arya. Arya's resolve weakened as Alexander's touch sent waves of pleasure through her. She moaned softly, leaning back against him. Your family. The babies, she tried to say. But Alexander didn't listen. He turned her around and lifted her up in his arms, wrapping her legs around his waist. I've missed you so much, Arya, he murmured, his eyes filled with desire. Arya's longing was evident in her eyes. I've missed you too, Alexander, she whispered, her hands rubbing his broad, muscular abs and chest. She leaned in, pressing her lips to his in a heated kiss. He held her face in between his palms and looked her in the eyes. I need you, Arya, he said, his voice husky. I can't wait any longer. I want to feel you. Arya's breath hitched, her body responding to his words. But they're waiting. Alexander silenced her with a deep kiss, his hands roaming her body. This is our moment, he whispered, his lips brushing against hers. Let's make it unforgettable. Arya melted into his embrace, her thoughts of propriety fading away. Make love to me, Alexander, she breathed. I shouldn't be selfish, Alexander thought to himself. Alexander pulled back slightly, his eyes showing a hint of concern as he suddenly realized something. Arya, you just gave birth a month ago. Are you sure it's okay? I don't want to hurt you. The doctor said we should wait 6 to 8 weeks. Arya felt a rush of warmth and love at his words. You're so caring, Alexander. You're right. I need time to heal before we can make love again. She bit her lip, a mischievous glint in her eyes. But you can still eat me raw. I need you. Alexander's desire flared at her words. As you wish, my love, he said, his voice husky. He lowered her gently onto the bed, positioning himself between her legs. His kisses trailed down her body, his touch igniting her skin. Arya moaned softly, her fingers tangling in his hair as he worshipped her with his mouth. I love you so much, she whispered, her body arching in response to his ministrations. Alexander's touch was both gentle and passionate, his love for her evident in every caress. I love you too, Arya, he murmured against her skin, his heart full of adoration for the woman who had given him so much joy. As they lost themselves in each other, the world outside ceased to exist. For those precious moments, it was just the two of them, bound by love and desire, their hearts beating as one. When they finally pulled apart, their breaths ragged, Arya's eyes shone with satisfaction and contentment. We should get ready, she said, her voice tinged with laughter. Alexander nodded, a soft smile on his lips. Yes, we should. But remember, we'll continue this later. Arya laughed, a sound that filled the room with joy. I'm counting on it. As they dressed, their eyes met in the mirror, reflecting the love and passion they shared. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bond unbreakable. Hand in hand, they made their way downstairs to join their family, ready to celebrate the new life they had brought into the world. I really can't believe how time flies. Our babies are now a month and 3 days old. Before we know it, we are already celebrating their 1-year birthday, Arya said with a smile. The Harrington family in their own cars and rows of bodyguards and security men escorted them to the venue. Grandma Yolanda was already at the venue waiting for them. The security was so tight that there was traffic on the roads as their cars moved. When they arrived at the venue, a large, elegant banner greeted them. Welcome to the world, Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. Congratulations, Alexander and Arya. The exterior was adorned with beautiful floral arrangements and sparkling lights, setting a celebratory tone. Arya and Alexander exchanged smiles. Are you ready for this? Alexander asked, squeezing Arya's hand. Arya nodded, her eyes shining. As long as you're with me, I'm ready for anything. They entered the grand hall, which was decorated lavishly. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceilings, casting a warm glow over the room. Tables were set with elegant centerpieces of white roses and lilies, and a large cake, beautifully decorated with the names of the triplets, stood as the centerpiece. As they walked in, a few guests immediately approached them to offer their congratulations. Nathan was the first to reach them. He enveloped Alexander in a warm hug. Congratulations, Alex, this is amazing news, Nathan exclaimed. Melissa smiled and congratulated Alexander as well. Thank you, Nathan. It's an overwhelming joy. Alexander responded warmly. Richard approached next. Congratulations, Mr. Harrington. This is wonderful news. Fatherhood looks good on you. Alexander grinned. Thank you, Richard. It's been a whirlwind, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Richard then turned to Arya. Congratulations, Arya. The triplets are beautiful. Arya smiled warmly. Thank you, Richard. How is your wife doing? Richard's face fell slightly. We've divorced. I couldn't continue with her insecurities. I apologize again for what she did to you last year. Arya's expression softened. It's all in the past, Richard. Thank you for your kind words. Richard smiled in relief. Thank you for understanding, Arya. Next, Arya's friends and colleagues, Emma, Maya, and Oliver, came to congratulate the couple. Emma beamed. Congratulations, Arya. They're so precious. Thank you, Emma, Arya replied, her eyes twinkling with happiness. Maya added, You're going to be an amazing mom, Arya. We're so happy for you. Arya hugged Maya. I couldn't have asked for better friends. Thank you. How has the journey been so far? They are a month old, I heard, Mariah said as she walked towards Arya. Congratulations, Arya. Arya smiled. Thank you, Arya. Thanks for coming. Oliver shook Alexander's hand. Congratulations, boss. You're going to have your hands full with 3 at once. Alexander laughed. Thanks, Oliver. We're ready for the challenge. More guests came forward to congratulate the couple, many expressing amazement at the news of the triplets. The atmosphere was filled with joy and celebration. As the crowd continued to mingle and offer their best wishes, Grandma Yolanda, leaning on her elegant cane, made her way towards the couple. Her eyes sparkled with pride and love. Congratulations, my dears, she said warmly, her voice carrying the wisdom of her years. The triplets are truly a blessing. I couldn't be prouder of you both. Arya smiled, her heart swelling with affection for the matriarch. Thank you, Grandma. Your support means everything to us. Alexander nodded, his expression sincere. We're so grateful to have you with us, Grandma. Your presence makes this day even more special. Yolanda patted Alexander's hand gently. It's a joy to be here and see my great-grandchildren. I have no doubt that you both will be wonderful parents. As the guests continued to celebrate, the moment arrived to introduce the triplets formally. Arya and Alexander stood at the front of the hall, with their family gathered around them. The room fell silent, anticipation hanging in the air. Alexander took a deep breath, his voice filled with emotion as he addressed the guests. Thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the arrival of our children. Arya and I are overjoyed to introduce you to Hayden, Layla, and Jaden. He gestured towards the beautifully decorated cradles where the triplets lay. The crowd erupted in applause, the air filled with cheers and congratulations. Arya, holding Layla in her arms, added, Your support and love mean the world to us. We are blessed to have such wonderful family and friends to share this moment with. The guests approached in small groups to see the babies, their faces lit up with smiles and admiration. The joy in the room was palpable, each person eager to welcome the newest members of the Harrington family. As the party continued, music filled the hall, and the guests enjoyed a lavish buffet. Conversations flowed, laughter echoed, and the atmosphere was one of pure celebration. Emma, Maya, and Oliver returned to Arya's side, their eyes still shining with excitement. This is such a beautiful celebration, Emma said, her voice filled with awe. The triplets are going to have so much love around them. Maya nodded in agreement. I can't wait to see them grow up. They're going to be so spoiled by all of us. Arya laughed softly. Thank you, guys. Your support means everything to me. I'm so lucky to have you all in my life. Oliver smiled warmly. We'll always be here for you, Arya, no matter what. As the evening wore on, the celebration continued with speeches, toasts, and more heartfelt congratulations. Alexander and Arya took turns holding their babies, introducing them to each guest with pride and joy. Grandma Yolanda, seated comfortably, watched with a contented smile. She motioned for Arya to come closer. My dear, you and Alexander have created something truly beautiful, Yolanda said, her voice tender. These children are a testament to your love and strength. Cherish every moment with them. Arya nodded, tears of happiness glistening in her eyes. Thank you, Grandma. We will. Alexander joined them, his arm around Arya's waist. We're so grateful to have you with us, Grandma. Your wisdom and love guide us every day. Grandma Yolanda's eyes twinkled. And I'll be here to see these little ones grow. It's the greatest joy of my life. As the celebration continued into the night, the Harrington family and their friends reveled in the joy of new beginnings. The triplets, surrounded by love and warmth, were the shining stars of the evening, their presence a symbol of hope and happiness for everyone gathered. The night ended with a final toast from Alexander, his voice filled with emotion. To family, love, and new beginnings. May Hayden, Layla, and Jaden bring joy and light to our lives. Thank you all for being here to share this moment with us. With glasses raised high, the guests echoed his sentiments, their cheers filling the hall. The night was drawing to a close, and the Harrington family, along with their guests, were basking in the joy of the celebration. The hall was still alive with soft music and the murmur of happy conversations. Grandma Yolanda, seated comfortably with a contented smile, watched her family with pride. Suddenly, her expression changed. Her face went pale, and she clutched her chest, her breath becoming labored. Alexander, standing nearby, noticed immediately and rushed to her side. "Grandma, are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Yolanda tried to respond, but her words were slurred and weak. Before anyone could react, she collapsed forward, slipping into unconsciousness. "Grandma!" Jessica screamed, rushing to her side. The hall fell into chaos as guests hurried to help, and Alexander quickly called for an ambulance. "Stay with us, Grandma," Ethan pleaded, his voice shaking as he held her hand. "Mother, what's wrong with her?" Gabriel asked. "Call an ambulance. We need to get her to the hospital." "I am going to take her to the hospital myself. You all give me space," Alexander yelled. "Oh, please let her be okay," Arya muttered under her breath.